Last night, I'm watching the Soldier Salute finals, having a great time, and wrestling once again delivers a storyline, an occurrence that just could not have been, you couldn't make it up even if you tried. And even with the family in question here, it still goes beyond what you would think is possible. And of course, I'm talking about, if you haven't already seen, the AJ Ferrari Zach Glazier match that went down in the finals of the Soldier Salute, where Zach Glazier, Iowa Hawkeye, is taking on AJ Ferrari, presumed to be, soon to be, Iowa Hawkeye. He visited Iowa. His brother Angelo's signed to go to Iowa. Anthony Ferrari is committed to go to Iowa. It seems like only a matter of time before AJ is wearing the black and gold for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And then the events of last night make you wonder, is this actually going to happen? So if you haven't seen the match, I'll give you the quick and dirty of how it ended, because really you can kind of get to the end. It's a very boring match, very little attacks from both guys. AJ offensively was really playing it close, not many attacks at all. Glazier kind of similar, understanding that AJ would love to counter score and win, and AJ got hit for stalling at the end and got sent into overtime, and then AJ gets a single leg, finishes in overtime. So match over. When the match is done, he kind of face mushes and shoves off. Definitely a little over the line, but nothing you don't see in wrestling. It's not something you would expect him to do to a future teammate. Glazier up, he takes exception to what AJ did and gets up in his face. A little bit of a confrontation. AJ swings with his left, whether it was a slap or punch is sort of tough to tell in the video, but it's a swing, and there is a difference, right? I don't know why or what, but like when there's a shove, it's just, a shove is kind of dismissed, and you see shoves in probably 50% of wrestling matches to some degree. But when you get the swing, things get elevated, and then when you go the not soldier salute with the middle finger to Glazier, that's the flagrant misconduct. So AJ got hit for flagrant misconduct after the match was over. So you're like, well, wait, does he still win? No, he loses. You can still lose a match that you win in regulation if there's a flagrant misconduct, and a swing and a middle finger is grounds for that. So he did get a loss. I don't know how that will work for him. This is an aside, but if you get a flagrant misconduct, you normally have to sit matches afterwards, but he's not a rostered athlete, so I don't know if that applies or doesn't apply to him, how that would work if he does end up going to a NCAA institution, Iowa or otherwise. That I guess we're kind of far from having to worry about that, but that was a question I had. But so then, as chaotic as that moment is, you're like, okay, that was bad. AJ lost his cool. Then they raise Glazier's hand, to which AJ's continuing to kind of like, he's just kind of losing it. I don't know how to really describe it, but it's every time you see the picture, your instinct is to kind of laugh. You see this guy AJ in these side splits, giving the double middle finger. It's like what a juxtaposition at the Soldier Salute. And as funny as it is as a visual, it's kind of equally sad that a guy can really just kind of fall off could lose his composure to that degree, that quickly, after winning a match, right? And so that happens, and you're like, okay, this is just not, this is not what I would expect, because, this is a guy, AJ, who, at best, the most charitable thing you could say is it ended really poorly at Oklahoma State, and you could say it was a mutual parting of ways, but he was just as much dismissed as it was mutual, right? Like, they were done with him, he was done with them, they left, okay? Didn't end well. He had his legal whatever, not good. So, you would think, coming into this, you get a little bit of a, best behavior AJ, right? That's kind of what I assumed. Like, when you're coming in, you're trying to get recruited, and all these things are about to happen for you. You think best behavior, new place, and At the same time, as I'm saying that, I expected best behavior, and we got what can only be described as really poor behavior and sportsmanship. He's not at Iowa yet. He's not in that room. He's not even been living in Iowa for the better part of this year, right? He's not been around. He's not in their room training. So he's not under Tom and Terry Brands and the Iowa staff's purview, right? So maybe the honeymoon phase that I was referring to was maybe that'll come down the line when he goes. I don't know. Maybe I'm grasping where I shouldn't grasp. So now the question is, immediately afterwards, everyone's like, okay, this Ferrari Iowa thing's got to be done, right? There's no way they're going to pursue this. But candidly, I don't think that's the case. I don't think that I'll say this, it's not been ruled out. I feel certain of that. I feel, like it's very likely that AJ and Anthony and the Brands will, they're going to try to make this work. That's what I think is going to happen. Now, the fallout from all this, and there's more. I got to go back into the Soldier Salute some more and get into some other stuff, because that was like, if the Soldier Salute ended and 197 was normal, I was like, man, this Soldier Salute was way more dramatic than last year. Last year had the Drake Spencer thing, whatever. This was way more full of, kind of non-wrestling related storylines. No one's talking about Drake Ayala getting over the hump against Pat McKee and then beating a very tough Jory Volk, even though that was probably the most notable wrestling story of the weekend because of the Ferrari circus, right? No one's talking about the actual wrestling. They're talking about the double middle fingers. They're talking about and understandably so. It's something you just do not see often at all. The last time I was this jaw dropped was 2016 Mongolian protests at the Olympics where the coaches stripped down to their underwear. That's probably the last time I was this jaw dropped over something happening in wrestling. But if they pursue him, I don't know. I think they will, and I think that the Coach Brands it really has to walk a tightrope here, because not only are you trying to manage the Ferrari dynamic, you have your current team, you have quite a few transfers in also, and you're trying to maintain some level of harmony on your team while bringing in a lot of new entities, some of them with baggage, right? And so you looked at, and the first kind of signal is like, hey, there may be a little tension here amongst the Iowa wrestlers and the Ferrari contingent. Was at 149, where you had Caleb Ratchey, an Iowa wrestler, who's in a dogfight to start at 149, versus Anthony Ferrari, AJ's younger brother. So what you had there, Ratchey ends up winning the match 7-2. He got a late takedown to make it look a little more lopsided than it was. He gets that takedown, and then little shove from the other. I don't remember who shoved first. I think it was Ratchey shoved, Anthony shoved back, and then Ratchey gives and this is not a coincidence, okay? He gives the full AJ flex right in Anthony's face. So that's very much pretty antagonistic and pointed like, hey, we're kind of not with what's going on right here with the Ferraris. At least that's my read. I don't know. He might have just got caught up in the moment and wanted to flex in Anthony Ferrari's face. But that was my first time. I was like, man, that's not how you would expect soon-to-be teammates, even though they're going to be vying for the same spot. That's not what would happen if Ratchey and Voinovich wrestled, right? That's not what would happen, in other circumstances. We see different teammates wrestle each other all the time, right? That's really common in the sport of wrestling. But what we saw here was different. So that's my first signal that, all right, there's maybe a little tension around this Ferrari situation. Then you go to 197, and then it goes nuclear. And so my thought is that I would not be surprised at all if AJ and Anthony still wind up at Iowa, and that AJ winds up being the starting 197 pounder for the Hawks. That's what I've kind of thought was going to happen for a period of time. I don't think this is going to disqualify that from happening. I think Coach Brands is still going to consider it. Now, what was AJ's response after the aftermath, right? After the match and the dust settles? Well, he posts this Instagram story a scene from Scarface. Which, you've seen Scarface. This is not a exact. This would not be my instinct. It's like, oh, I just messed up. Let me post a Scarface video where we talk about being the bad guy. Meanwhile, this guy kills a lot of people and does cocaine. It's like, all right, well, probably wouldn't have been my PR 101 first move, but it's AJ Ferrari, and the surprises don't stop. And so I was like, well, that's not a good response. But then he later on went to post that he's contrition, right? He said, hey, I was disappointed with my actions, want to do better, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a better sign, right? That's a better signal that maybe it's getting through and he knows that this behavior is not going to be acceptable. So I don't know. It was wild, and more to come on the Ferrari front. But if you think about just the entirety of the Soldier Salute and so many non-wrestling storylines, and these aren't, man, we focus a lot on the wrestling, right? And that's the main focus. But this stuff really stood out. You've got Schwab and Brands and the name calling back and forth. Terry Brands, Doug Schwab, two great guys. I hope they get along. Name calling, crybaby, you're this. I'm not going to say that. What Coach Brands said, and then even though I died laughing at it, then you've got Gabe Arnold, Iowa's super stud freshman. He's spanking a man in the middle of the match. The match isn't over, and he's delivering 8, 9, 10 spanks. That was weird. That's just strange behavior. Bo Nickel did that to Zahid Valencia a couple of times in the Olympic trials. I was like, why are we spanking him repeatedly in the middle of the match? I don't understand it. I didn't understand what Gabe was doing. And then you thought all that was weird, and then you get the Ferrari thing. So it was a wild weekend. Soldier Salute 2024 is going to have a lot to live up to. It ended up having a ton of really good wrestling too. I hope you go back and check it out. But yeah, that's trying to think what else was going on, but that's so top of mind right now. And we'll see what happens with the Ferraris moving forward. We'll see what happens with Iowa moving forward. But I guess in conclusion, don't rule out the Ferraris, all three of them still going to Iowa.